Who is trying to lie to me? Who is trying to convince me? Who has an agenda to sell to me? Who has something to say to me? The industrial media complex is a complex network of institutional power with so-called mainstream media, communications, and technology players occupying key nodes and playing crucial roles within it in order to enable it. They hold vast amounts of power over the current form of information, and this becomes plainly apparent on the online sphere. The convergence of old technology and the new forms of tech has centralized an unimaginable amount of power into the hands of a few gigantic corporations that now dictate how we communicate, how we are supposed to feel, and what we are supposed to think about certain news items, predominant ideologies, or worldwide situations. Such massive flow of traffic that these corporations hold is no doubt of interest to said industrial media complex players. It's no exaggeration to claim that the media industrial complex is, perhaps, the most powerful institution in the history of the world, as any bureaucratic institution, no matter how tangible or self-proclaimed their powers happen to be, only work with tangible power through laws, diplomacy, and in some cases, armed conflicts outside of the online field, as they are governments, and thus, they have their limits. Even supranational organizations such as NATO or the World Health Organization are limited within the realms of the outreach and impact it has on the worldwide socio-political stage. So-called fake news, however, does not have said limitations, as the sphere of influence is online, which means their outreach is basically infinite. Unless said fake news is under the threat of so-called fact-checkers, which hold either shaky or questionable credentials to dictate what is considered the truth or not, and usually are either compromised or remain anonymous in order to not be the target of so-called unsolicited attacks, harassment campaigns, or attempts at unmasking their identities, otherwise known on online speech as the act of doxing, for carrying out their ongoing crusade of fighting what they dictate, or have been dictated by someone higher above the chain, to be fake or real. Who is trying to lie to me? Who is trying to convince me? Who has an agenda to sell to me? Who has something to say to me? Please tell me what to believe in. One of these issues in which it becomes the most apparent, and some would say it becomes outright blatant, is in the realm of politics. Politics are already very divisive, but news channels profit from it. They make money off of fueling hatred between fellow citizens in order to bump up their viewerships and clicks. It is considered the single biggest threat to the values of freedom and freedom of thought itself. Some people even argue that it could cause conflicts among citizens, as a continuous rise of discord and feel of division among certain groups or stratas of society might fuel a war among said groups, even leading to violence, which news sites will be eager to report, as it means a bump in the audience eager to know about said happening. Said issue. It's even apparent even in the case of the so-called alternative media, which claims to be, as the name implies, an alternative to the traditional media channels and organizations, but happen to be befallen by the same pitfalls as the mainstream media, and thus employ the same tactics in order to drive viewerships. One of the most apparent and flagrant uses of the industrial media complex that played part in real-world politics and military operations became known as early as the Gulf War, when General Electric, a military contractor and supplier of parts for bombers and weapons, owned the NBC channel as they praised how effective their weapons were in the indiscriminate killings that succeeded for the following years. I am being force-fed information. I can't quite control this saturation. Obstination to stay connected. All the things I don't agree with will get rejected. Corporations don't just shape our politics or economics, they also seek to change public opinion to serve their interests. Which corporations play the biggest role in shaping knowledge and news? Perhaps the answer would be to look at the biggest players in the digital scape. A staggering 3 billion people visiting the social media giant known as Facebook as of the year 2025 should provide a measurable yardstick and helps pinpoint how massive the flow of information happens to be, as discussed before. What do they fund? Technological corporations fund power players in the political spaces and organizations aligned with their values that can further their objectives. As recently as 2020, it has been known that Google spent well over $1 million in supporting political candidates from the stratas they consider they would be most beneficial to their own agenda. Who do they represent? In general terms, they represent the interests of powerful corporations such as themselves, political entities that may prove beneficial to them, or significant ideologies that have significant influence over the production and distribution of news and information. What role have they played in the rise of authoritarianism? The role they play is significant, and the weight they carry in shaping the public opinion should not be understated. What techniques have they used in propelling said rise to power? With such techniques as consistently covering controversial topics that resonate with a particular segment of the population, framing key issues or events through sensationalism and half-truths, in order to make a watchful audience perceive said issue, can influence how the audience perceives it, confirming their audience pre-existing beliefs and values, also known as using selective exposure to cater certain narratives. The fanning of the flames of polarization to exacerbate the political divide and pretend said opposite ideas are incompatible with one another. Bonus points if the us versus them mentality is used as a technique to reinforce said polarization. And even with this preconceived notion of being journalists that do their work in a fit and proper manner, through lack of fact-checking or balanced reporting, we must reinforce the idea that media industrial complex is, perhaps, the most powerful institution in the history of the world, but the rise of internet is shaking the foundations that said complex used to stand on with firm determination. Is it very important to keep a watchful eye on the maneuvering of said complex and the interference and intermingling of certain tech companies with said complex in order to preserve a free, impartial, and precise flow of information for those who seek to be informed on the contemporary issues of our times? This is not a complaint. It's a warning.